everyone. This is the third attempt to do this exact same video. I tried yesterday to put this video out twice, um, and the first time around I was pretty much at the end of what I wanted to discuss, and my computer completely crashed. Just shut down, went black. I don't never happened before. Not really sure why. So I lost that recording, which would have been the best of all of the three because I had all the things on my mind and on my heart that I wanted to share. But what did I do? Well, I let the computer reboot, came back on, and essentially I did it again. And when I did it again, it tested everything like I've done for 3 years on the same program, and it went through, and I worked, and it was recording. And then when I went to end the recording to then post it, when I ended the recording, like I always have done for 3 years, it was no longer there, and it just disappeared. It wasn't recorded, and it wasn't saved. So that happened to me twice yesterday. So I've kind of been wondering why that was the case. So I'm hoping today that this one stays up. I've actually disconnected my computer completely from the internet to see if this will actually work. So it's just me and my computer and the recording. And I've saved these images that I wanted to share today. I've missed a couple that I will have to talk about because I don't have the tabs up to talk about it. But I just wanted to kind of clear that out. If this one doesn't work, then maybe it's God telling me not to do the video. But if this goes on today, then it will be done. But this will be the last time I try to upload this. So this video, I wanted to discuss, basically, where we are. There's been a lot of the last 2 or 3, 4 weeks for me have been spiritually have been pretty rough. I've kind of went having some times back and forth in regards to the spirit kind of showing me things in my understanding. When I was called out of this world a few years ago, um, God really dragged me out. I was a professional athlete, like I've said, and I lived that life that the world would love. And God pulled me out, and I wanted out, and I wanted the truth, and I wanted to know what the truth was. And I started my understanding on truth of the world, and that's what God has shown me. Has shown me from the beginning the truth of what the world actually was. We're so deceived, completely deceived. We're even deceived today. Even those that have been called out of this world and are trying to walk out and overcome their flesh, we are completely deceived still. So a lot of these things that I'm going to go over today, it just makes me shake my head to wonder why I never asked these questions, even when I was called out. When you're in the world and you are essentially in darkness, you don't know any better. You don't know anything, especially in this generation or the generations of our parents and us. We have been born into complete consumption, consume, consume, consume. Everything's been handed to us, and been the most self-entitled, selfish generations that there probably ever has been. We've had access to more things than any other person in the history of the world at the fingertips. Grocery store, just go fill up the grocery cart, just things like that we've been born into, that we have no understanding really of the history of why that be the case. And so today's video is going to be on questions of the how thick is the deception. The deception is incredibly thick, as we understand, but it could be even more thicker than that. But with all that being said, the most important thing to understand is that you have to overcome your flesh. I've been preaching on this channel for 3 or 4 years, discussing the abomination that made desolate. That was kind of what God put in my heart to start out the channel on. I preached and warned about that, and then it continued on to the kind of Older Testament type stuff, because that's how God showed me um, who He was. I walked out that life under the law for many years, traveled to the land of Israel, and I've kind of walked under the Torah, walked under the law of Moses, because I believe that that's what God wanted me to do, and I taught on that. And I was convicted on that, and God continues to work with me each and every day, and I do not desire to lead anybody astray. So I have to be careful going forward on how I move uh, with my words, because this world and this life we live is weirder than fiction. It's quite interesting and quite something we can never understand. But I can tell you that as God shows me things and puts things into my heart, I teach and I speak. I've spent so much time in the Old Testament and the Torah, most of my called out life, that I have a pretty good understanding of what it means and how it portrays to us. And I taught a lot about the millennium and a lot about the first resurrection and the priesthood and the kings that were going to reign in that age with Christ. And I believed it, and I would taught it, and I never really had a lot of second thought on other scriptures that maybe I would have read in a different context and a different understanding. That, hey, wait a minute, maybe Christ meant what He said about returning immediate. Maybe the apostles meant what they said when He was coming back within their lifetime. And maybe what Christ said about those that are standing there would see Him return on the clouds. Uh, you know, because we have been such a self-entitled, selfish generation born into it from our parents down, we believe that all these things should be coming to us, just like Christianity. Christianity itself as a whole, as a religion, I believe is an abomination. I believe that they have a high horse type mentality, that they believe that they're the chosen ones and that they're going to reign and do all these things with Christ because they're something special. I'm talking about the religion part of it, and I'm talking about what has been taught since the Catholicism has been put in place. Um, I'm not talking about those that actually have been called out of this world from God Himself and dragged into the relationship with Jesus Christ. And as we continue to walk, whatever era we're in, whether the millennium is over and we're in the short season or not, this is the purpose of this video, is to kind of talk about these things, get these things kind of out in the open with more people that have understanding of the Bible. And I mean true understanding of the Bible, those that study the Bible, those that are Bereans, those that are studying themselves to show themselves approved, those that have the Holy Spirit dwelling in them because they hate their flesh, those that continue to walk in the light and not in the darkness. These are the kind of conversations we have to have. Um, the biggest thing that God has showed me as of late in my heart is the fact that you have to overcome. You have to overcome, guys. We all have to overcome. We have to overcome ourselves. We have to overcome the flesh. We have to die every single day to it. And I truly mean that. We have to come out of the world. We cannot be in the world. We truly cannot be in the world. And what does in the world mean? What does that mean to you? Does that mean you have friends that are not following biblical ways? Do you got worldly friends? Do you got people coming into your house that are worldly? Do you have people running around in the world and thinking that they're not worldly and bringing in sicknesses and bringing in heresies and bringing in all these things? Elijah was in the cave for a reason, and I get that there's more out there, and that's who I'm talking to. I'm talking to that remnant right now. Things are getting worse with the chemtrails and the poisoning of everything that they have done, which is why I'm going to talk about this today. But please understand that you have to overcome. Please understand that you have to walk this faith out with the help of Christ and Father in you. They're the only reason why you are able to overcome. I truly believe now more than ever, with the walk that I've been walking and the Spirit has been showing me, The greatest thing that the Spirit, which is truth, has shown me personally is that the problem is, or the issue is me. The issue is the person in the mirror. That's the issue in regards to having a one-on-one relationship with Jesus Christ and God the Father. And what I mean by that is those that are in the world are walking around in darkness, not having a clue about anything. They don't even know that they themselves are the problem. When in fact, when you have God that gives you the truth and He's dwelling in you, He shows you the problem that you have to fix. And the problem is you, and the problem is me. And we have to continue to overcome. Christ overcame. Christ tells us and commands us to overcome like He has overcome. Regardless if anybody's coming to save you, guys, the reality is that you have to put the work in to overcome your flesh, overcome those internal sins that only you know about, the ones that you need to get out and cast down out of your mind. Satan is literally, he's not even at the doorstep anymore. I mean, like it tells us in Genesis, he's literally in the house. He's literally in the temple of most people. So we have to continue to stand on guard and have all of the proper understanding and the tools that Christ has given us, the shield and the helmet and everything, the sword. You're going to have to walk it out now more than ever. And I've been feeling really beaten up. Been having a spiritual toll taken on me tremendously. It's very heavy on me, and I think it's because of the fact that we're so lost as a generation, as humans. We're totally lost and totally completely in darkness. And those few that are trying to be the light is to die every day, to die to your worldly lusts and desires that put you in a flesh state where you're unfruitful. Having the fruits of Christ in you are a wonderful and beautiful thing. And love is the biggest thing, loving your neighbor as yourself, or loving others and caring for others and wanting to do it from your heart. Those are the things that matter, not the selfish desires of the mind that become natural. We're natural wild brute beasts, realistically, and more so now probably because we're in Satan's season. I believe at this point in time it's becoming more and more obvious that we're in the season of the little season that I've talked about in Revelation. And again, I don't know. I mean, I don't, I'm just like you. I'm trying to learn and navigate all this stuff. But the most important thing I want to say before I get into where we are, questions, is to me, the only way out of this is through Christ, obviously. And I know that Christ and God the Father are real because they called me out. And I know that. Personally, I know that. And I know that I have to continue to overcome for whatever age I'm living in. I have to overcome myself that I may be able to become blemish free in Him. And whenever He ends this world or wherever we're at, I'm able to sit on that judgment seat and I'm able to say, hey, you've given me the knowledge, Father, in Christ. You've given me the truth. And as weak and as disgusting as I am, I've tried to live in the Spirit and cast down those evil sins within me as best as I could with your help and your knowledge. And that's the only thing I can do, and that's the only thing you can do. This whole fantasy world of Christianity that believes that there's no work to be done and just believe on Christ and you're saved and you can continue living in a sinful, disgusting life is one of the greatest deceptions next to what we're going to talk about today. So please heed my words when I say that you must overcome. You must overcome. That's all I got to say, and I'll continue to preach that message. Cast it down and become a new living stone in Christ Jesus, which is full of His fruits. So, okay. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about the video today. And hopefully this is able to be published again. So where are we? These are the questions that I have. These are the questions that I should have had forever. but essentially more so, I should have had these when I was waking up and God was working with me. But I believe all things are in due course and due time, and God only opens up certain things to you as you're ready. So here's the questions I have today. Where are we? And if in fact we're still waiting on Christ's return to set up his millennial reign, then the questions I have are, why has the prophets and the apostles and John and Christ himself not warned us about the certain things I'm going to bring up and show you today? Maybe they have, and it has been deceived from us and taken out of the Bible. I'm not sure. But I certainly don't read these things that we have been living through for the last 200 years or more. I don't read them, and I don't see them as warnings, and you haven't either. And I'm talking about, there's nothing in the Bible that we have today that is given to us that have warned us of these things. And I think that it gives more credence to the fact that we could possibly be in the short season, because there's not much said about the short season. And the short season, I believe, is what I can read and understand, is basically Satan has taken over the world at all facets and has become God on the earth. And this makes more sense when I go to show you what I'm going to show today. So with that said, let's take a look. This is the Industrial Revolution, when machinery came, factories came, and went from manual labor to more of a computer or generated manufacturing, artificial way of doing work. Where is this talked about? Where are we told about this to come? What about these? Automobiles, trucks, tractors, machinery, construction equipment. Where is this? Where did John tell us that this was going to be coming for us, those that are waiting on the return of Jesus Christ to reign with him? These. What about the trains? Never read this. What about this? The airplane. The one that's spraying us like bugs today. Where's this at? Where's this talked about in the prophecies of the latter times? Of people being able to fly around in the heavens, like some kind of a magic creature is what they would have thought it would have been. I don't read that. What about this Mickey Mouse thing that said it actually goes up inside the heavens and floats around or flies around within the heavens and goes through the firmament and water somehow? What about this thing? What about them preaching and telling us about, hey guys, there's going to come a time that this is going to happen if we're actually in the time of waiting for Christ to return to set up the millennium? What about the GMO, where man has become God and created food in a lab? What about that? Creating all these things, making food that's killing you, killing me, destroying mankind completely. Don't read it. What about artificial insemination that they've done to animals, and they've been doing to animals for a long time? What about artificial insemination for women? Playing God. I don't read that. I think these would be big warnings to us, wouldn't you think? Oh, I added that as a interesting other study. I don't know if you ever had actually taken a look at this before, but this is a study I should do, or a video I should do on another one. But again, it's quite interesting. I guess this is why they created artificial insemination, so they can continue to create these types of relationships. I don't read about it. What about cloning? Right? This is a fact sheet. This is a fact. They're able to clone animals. This is a big one to me in terms of why haven't I questioned this, or why haven't this been told? Again, man playing God. Being able to create animals. I mean, are they able to even create man? Have they cloned man? I mean, who knows, right? We don't know anything. But this is what we do know. And the things I brought up here and showing are only things that that we know of, right? That we know are happening and have happened, right? What about all the genders? Where are they at? Why has that not been warned? Why haven't they told us that this would happen? If in fact we were waiting for Christ to return for the millennial reign? Or is this all happening? All these things I'm showing you, or is these all in the season of Satan, short season? What about the cell phone? What about the home phone? That we're able to connect and talk to people from all over the world? What about the television? Right? What about that? What about the most abominable thing that was ever created to completely brainwash and destroy mankind from the living room? What about that? What about the computer that we use every single day? Right? These are the questions I'm putting forth. Look at all these things that they've created. Back in the Roman days, there was always gay and lesbian. I can understand that. But look at this. You don't read this. You don't see this. This is a huge. If you want to talk about a huge thing that has been kept from us in terms of what we've been given for a Bible, maybe all this stuff is put in the Bible that was going to be given. I'm not sure, but I can tell you that I don't read these things that I'm sharing with you today. More than two genders. Complete destruction of the family. Complete destruction of mankind in its entirety. And this thing here that I shared, right? This new companion that's going to be released at Easter this year, Ishtar, the pagan god, time of year. What about this thing here that's going to be able to, you're going to act like God and be able to talk to it and tell it what to do, and it's going to do everything for you. These are incredible devices that you don't read about. What about AI that's taken over now? That's completely merging man with machine. What about these things that are actually real and working and doing things for all over the world? Right? Right? Turning man into machine. Right? These are not in the Bible. This is not prophesied. This is not warned to us in the latter days. Right? These are remember, the Bible is there to interpret itself. And this is why I'm saying that we have to start asking ourselves these questions of what season are we in? Are we in the season of waiting for Jesus to return and reign with him and with the 144,000? Waiting for the so-called rapture to save you out of some kind of trouble? Or are we past that stage? Are we actually in the season? These are very incredible things that have been happening all around us, and I think we're just so in a deceived state we don't even realize it because we've been born into it. But again, I got to keep telling you, none of this matters. These are just questions that you have to be able to have for the hope that's in you, a defense for the hope that's in you, to be able to say where are we at in time, right? The message is always the same: you must overcome yourself. But we're living in an incredible, hard, deceived generation, possibly the hardest that was ever created. Um, and I think that this is why I'm showing this video today. Is it's pretty incredible. And then we're going to get into these. This is physical proof that we have, many of us in our older times, we have visited some of these places. We were able to actually tour some of these places, right? These ancient palaces that have all the same structures, all the same interior, all the same images, paintings that can never be done by man, right? All of these things. Well, that's not working because I'm not on the internet. But what are these kingdoms? What are these castles? All these castles that were created back in the apparent Dark Ages, Middle Ages, where there was no acceleration of innovation from mankind itself because Rome fell. But yet it was from 500 to 1500, which is coincidentally 1,000 years. These kingdoms were built, these palaces were built, that ironically enough didn't have any plumbing, had no running water in them. But yet they were able to make these structures and buildings and castles and palaces with absolute perfectness, with material that would never be able to be moved by horse and buggy. But they weren't smart enough to put in plumbing and running water. But yet in the ancient times BC before Christ, in Egypt and in Greece and Rome, they had plumbing. So what is the question? What are we asking ourselves here? I mean, maybe they didn't need the plumbing because they had glorified bodies. That's just a question. That's just a thought, right? But these places are here for a fact that we can actually go and see, and we know with our own eyes that these places exist. And the narrative that they give you is foolish. This could never have been built and articulated. This stuff is absolutely mind-boggling. They couldn't even build this stuff today, let alone 700 years ago when the man just had a ladder and a hammer. Right? So you have to ask yourself these questions. Why haven't we asked ourselves these questions before? Right? This stuff is magnificent. But all the so-called churches of the world that they say they're churches. Like, look at this stuff. How could they even get such a stuff inside of a building that is, the ceilings in some of these places are like 30, 40, 50 stories, right? Is this the millennial reign? This is what has been hidden from us, right? These are just questions for you to ponder and to figure out yourself. But I'm telling you right now, this can't be done by man, especially 700 years ago. This thing here, can you imagine bringing this thing inside the St. Peter's Basilica, or whatever this thing's called? How could they lift such a thing? I mean, I'm sure this is all marble or some type of precious stone that would be tons and tons of weight. What are they pulling that in with elephants? I mean, come on, guys, right? Truly remarkable. Let's finish in Revelation 20. And I saw thrones and them that sat upon them, and the sentence of judgment was given unto them. And the souls of them that had been beheaded because of the witness of Jesus. Beheaded here is not physically having your head cut off, but more being cut off from the world for the sake of Jesus Christ. Not partaking in the world, okay? I've done a video on that. Because of the witness of Jesus Christ and the Word of God. And such had not done homage unto the wild beast again. There's that wild beast. or unto his image, nor had received the mark upon their forehead or their hand. And they lived and reigned with Christ for 1,000 years. Apparently in 70 AD, when the destruction of Jerusalem happened, and around the 60s when Nero was around, all this stuff apparently, according to whatever history they have given us, this stuff actually happened. Apparently you had to have a mark on your hand or forehead to enter in the marketplaces and in the known world, and the guy's image was Nero. I mean, again, we don't know because we everything is such a it's such a deception. The rest of the dead, though, the rest of the dead lived not until the 1,000 years ended. The rest of the dead lived not until the 1,000 years ended. If we're taking this stuff as literal reign and literal people and literal elect and saints that literally lived in these palaces that we can literally walk into today and see, somebody lived in these palaces. This might not be the millennium. I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying if we're starting to ask questions, and we take this as a literal reign with Christ for 1,000 years, it says the rest of the dead lived not until the 1,000 years were ended. So where did these people come from? Clearly they came back to life. Or, according to Ezekiel from 40 to 48 in the millennial temple, as I understand it, there's people that are living that are not in glorified bodies that are outside the camp. And they are to be commanded to come up to Feast of Tabernacles every year or they would be punished. So clearly there was a lot of flesh still running around that could die. So is it in fact the case that you have a situation where the people that are continuing on after the 1,000 years, that's who we are? Right? Is that who we are? I don't know. Right? This is the first resurrection, which I don't believe fits there at all. It's probably a mistranslation. It should be up or down. Happy and holy is he that has part in the first resurrection. Upon those the second death has no authority, but they shall be priests of God and kings of Christ, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. As soon as the 1,000 years shall be ended, the accuser shall be let loose out of his prison, and will go forth to deceive the nations that are in the four corners of the earth. He's talking about the whole earth here after the millennium. The millennium and the old world that we understand is pretty much just the Middle East and parts of Europe and stuff. Now the beast Satan is going to be let loose, and he's going to go to the entire earth. And he's going to what? The Gog and Magog to gather themselves together to battle, the number of whom is the sand of the sea. I want to tell you something here. This Gog and Magog, don't let anybody fool you, any Christian teachers fool you that the Gog and Magog is some kind of a nation or Russia or any of these other countries or anything like that. That's not what this is saying. When you actually take the time to read this in the Greek and study it and break it down, you realize that the Gog and Magog basically and simply means future Antichrist. Future Antichrist, which is the number of the sand of the sea. You're living in a world today that has 8 billion people. And out of those 8 billion people, how many are Gog and Magog? Or the proper understanding, future Antichrist, those that don't believe and are living in darkness. You're getting a pretty good picture of where we're at. How many people are truly living for Christ and God the Father and truly been called into this world and trying to overcome the self? Out of that 8 billion people. How many? I'm not talking about Christians either that say they're Christian and continue to live in sin. I'm talking about true called out ones that are knowing and understanding that themselves are the problem, that they have to overcome their sin, and they have to fill themselves with the fruits of the Spirit that Jesus Christ is. How many are there? You're not going to find hardly any. So this Gog and Magog, and they're going to gather themselves together, these antichrists, which is the world, worldly men, 8 billion people, they're going to be able to go around and they're going to what? They're going to come over the breadth of the land and surround the camp of the saints, the beloved city. I don't read where Christ goes anywhere after he's reigning for 1,000 years on the earth. I know he touches down on the Mountain of Olives, wherever that might be. And I know it doesn't tell us that him and the saints and the elect go back up to heaven. And I understand it tells us here that these people that are essentially antichrist or don't believe, worldly, living in darkness, have no belief at all, connected to the beast system, and mostly transhumanism, I guess, is even more so, believing in science, wanting to become gods on earth. They're going to have no problem going on a suicide mission up to surround the camp of the saints, which could even be the center of the earth, the North Pole, where every single country in the world has signed a treaty to not allow anybody to go there, but yet they can't agree on anything else in the world, but they sure will sign that treaty to not let anybody go there. I wonder what's there, the Rupus Nigra. I wonder what's there. That map that was created in the 1500s that was no longer allowed to be published after the 1500s, which coincidentally ends the 1,000 years of the Dark Ages. I mean, these are questions you have to ask yourself as someone that's trying to seek truth only. So are they on the earth still? A place in the center of the earth? Are they there? I don't know. But I do know that we're living in a time that this here, as the sand of the sea number, is the time you're living in now, the most populated time in the history as far as we understand. 8 billion people. What kind of deception is Satan going to pull to convince everybody to go and surround the camp of the saints in the center of the earth to go on a suicide mission? I can tell you it's not going to be a very hard deception. Because if anybody has walked around lately out into a grocery store or out into a mall or anything, places like that, which I never go to, but I had to go out once this past week to Costco, I was filled with great sorrow for the people that were walking around that store, not having a clue about anything other than what's on their phone and things that don't matter. They have no idea that they've been deceived since they've been born. It's very, very sad. And these people that are living in this world that are not called out follow and listen to every word that the television tells them and everything that the professionals and the doctors and the mighty men of the earth tell them to do. So it will not be difficult for them to believe that there's some kind of a war that they have to go fight to save their life and world that they love. Overcome yourself, guys. Overcome yourself. Allow the Spirit of truth to show you your errors and show you that you're the problem and that I'm the problem and that we must overcome our own sins and work to die every day and to put away and to cast down the natural, self-centered, selfish desires that are built into your flesh. I pray that this gets uploaded today and that this doesn't disappear again. As I end this video, much love.